What's up, everybody? Soren Baker here on Unique Access, and today we are joined by DJ EFN. Thank you for coming through, sir.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah, man. So I've known EFN for a long time. I actually got to know him and meet him in different ways, but mainly my first real introduction to you to get to interacting with you per se was when you were managing Mayday or working with Mayday.
Yeah, and you supported Mayday a lot. Thank you for that. Appreciate it.
Yeah, Mayday, man. Very talented group out of Miami, and did a lot with them over the years, and it's been nice seeing them, you know, grow from being independent and then getting with Strange and becoming successful and touring the country and all over the place. So you've done so much in the game, but I wanted to start with Mayday because I was getting to know you personally and then understanding all these other things that you had going on before Drink Champs and before you became who everyone knows now. But I wanted to get into why and how is management important to what you do?
Wow. To what I do in general?
Yes.
I mean, I just think that you have to have that person that's kind of away from the front of the camera or in front of the stage to kind of like be able to like help navigate troubled waters and navigate this industry and the different personalities you meet, and you just need that like, I would say, like what's the boat, the back of the boat that steers it? What's that called?
Rudder?
Yeah, to me the manager's like the rudder.
Okay.
Of whatever, you know, of a group or of a movement or whatever. I feel that that's important, and it keeps you kind of like grounded, and it keeps the artist being able to just be artists and not have to worry about certain things. Even though I feel that in today's age, an artist needs to be well-rounded and know everything. They should understand the job of the manager and be able to manage themselves if they have to.
Right.
But the manager is key to allowing the artist have the freedom to do their art.
And then with that, yourself now because of Drink Champs and because of your coming home and these different things that you work on, what have you learned from being part of a management team to now being more in front of the camera yourself?
Right.
How do you think that experience has helped you get to where you are and where you're going?
Well, I came into this with the management mindset, you know, in terms of like I wanted to manage artists, develop group, and it was really because I felt like I didn't really have much of skill to put out there myself. Like, even, you know, I DJ'd and I felt like I was a decent DJ, but I wasn't a DJ Craze or a Q-Bert or none of these guys, you know? So I'm like, okay, I'm not going to go out there and be able to do these kind of things, and I can't rap, you know, to save my life. So, but I had such a passion for this stuff. I was like, what else could I do? I was like, well, I could put my passion where it helps somebody else, you know, help somebody else's vision. So I always came with the management business side of it. But as I continued to help other people's careers, you know, you kind of felt sometimes that maybe these artists didn't appreciate some of the stuff you did, or it's just you didn't get what, and it's not even their fault because it is what it is, you know, it's their art. You didn't get, or I didn't get what I wanted out of these situations in the long run. So sometimes you kind of, you know, it put me in a position to feel, well, if I want a certain something out of this, then maybe I have to just go out there and put myself in front. You know? And that's where this all came out of.
And did you feel, because I've had this experience when I've tried to help different artists, but did it ever happen where you felt like you wanted it more than the artist wanted it?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, that's happened a lot.
So explain that to people, because for me, when I was trying to help guys or when I help guys or whatever, I tell them a lot, like, look, if I'm going to help you, you have to want this more than I do, because I'm going to work hard or I'm going to try to do all this stuff for you, but I can't be the driving force of it if you're the artist.
Right, and then there's also different eras of like the personalities that the artists had, or like attitudes they had towards what they had to do. Like there's the era where the artist is like, well, I'm just the artist, you know, and you do everything, and it's like, you know, we've had different eras where artists had different mentalities, and yeah, I've dealt with artists that just, you know, I'm like saying, like, I'm seeing the vision and I'm saying what, you know, what they need to do, the roadmap to their success, and they're just like, nah, I just go in the studio and that's it. It all just materializes, and I'm like, nah, you know, like, you know, you got to go out there and be your own street team. You got to be, you know, you got to be your best advocate for yourself out there, and you got to go out there and get in the trenches. And that was always my mind frame with everything. Like, I got to go in the trenches, and I also was a big, you know, proponent of paying dues. You know, because, you know, you learn through experience, and then experience is basically paying dues.
Right. And then with the Coming Home series, where you focus on different countries and different movements and stuff, how and why did that come about?
Well, the first film that we did was Cuba, right? And I always wanted to go to Cuba. I'm Cuban American. Well, I'm born here. If you talk to a Cuban from Cuba, they're like, you're not Cuban American, you're American.
Right.
But we call ourselves Cuban American. And if anybody knows the history of Cuba and you know, the revolution, the communism, and the exiles, you know, the Cubans that grew up here, they're anti everything Cuba. They don't, you know, they raise their children like, you don't go back to Cuba, you don't do none of that. But as I got older, I wanted to see Cuba for myself. I wanted to see my parents' homeland. So I was planning this trip, and it had nothing to do with music.
Right. That's why I think it's interesting.
Yeah, so it had nothing to do with music, and it was around. The idea had come early on, but around 2012 is like when I really got serious about it, because I felt that eventually Cuba was going to open up, and I kind of wanted to see it in its capsule. You know, maybe see something, remnants of something my parents might have saw when they were young and there. So I planned this trip. I told some of my friends, and I had met somebody that had been to Cuba, and were dealing with hip-hop artists in Cuba. So I was like, you know what, let's film this, and let's link with these hip-hop artists, and let's just see what our counterparts are doing on the island, and let's just film it. It was like just to do it for ourselves. It wasn't for anybody else. It was like just like an indie project, maybe to show it to our friends and family, to other Cubans. And we did the film, we put it together, and it got to some film festivals. It won some film festivals. It was the first film project I ever was a part of. Right. And I started to hear different people from all different, you know, cultures and different nationalities who I didn't think would appreciate the film were saying, "Wow, I'm from the Philippines, or I'm from here, I'm from there. I really would love to go and follow, you know, in my ancestral, you know, footsteps and go back home, and I would love to see what the hip hop scene's like, or I would love to go back home to my parents' land." And I was like, you know what, like, I love what Anthony Bourdain is doing. You know, and a lot of people use Anthony Bourdain's name when they talk about this kind of film, these type of series, but I really was a big fan of the way he did it in terms of, like, his passion was he was a chef, his passion was food, and then he used what he knew as a conduit to conversations, you know, to a greater conversation about whatever country he was in, to learn more about the country. It wasn't necessarily just about him or being a chef. Right. And I felt that I could use hip-hop in that manner. And it spawned the idea where, you know what, let me try to be like the Anthony Bourdain of hip-hop, and let me start going to these different countries.
And I like it, too, the series. People should check them out because there's several now. But I like the fact that you're going to Cuba and to Haiti and to places that people would not deem sexy, probably. Right. So as you continued it, why focus on that instead of being like, oh, I'm going to, like, where there's all the most beautiful beaches? Like, how did that...
Couple reasons. First, it's not interesting to me. Okay. You know. Second, what's going to stand out? The places that people aren't going to. And also, I feel there's more of a story there, because I feel like if people are going to some of these places, they're exploiting the negativity in these places. Right. And I'm not going with that mind frame. Like, I don't go to a country and try to go to the hood just to go to the hood. If our journey takes us into the hood, it's because an artist is taking us into their studio in the hood, and we're talking about the music, the culture, and what's great about it. You know, of course, organically, our camera's going to show you things that might be like, wow, that's kind of crazy, you know, what's going on over there. But that's not what we're there for, and that's really why. And also, there's something personal tied to each of these countries. Like Haiti, you know, we're from Miami, so we're Jamaicans, Cubans, Haitians, Colombians. So we have friends. So we're taking the same way I went to Cuba because of my, you know, ancestral background. I took a friend of mine who had never been to Haiti who's Haitian, you know, and he went to Haiti, and we went to Peru, and we took my homie that's Peruvian, we went to Peru. Vietnam, I went to Vietnam because that one, my father fought in the Vietnam War, and I've always wanted to go to Vietnam, and that was kind of me again, going back to something, you know, tracing my kind of like lineage back to Vietnam in a sense. And then that's basically why we're picking these different countries.
And then as you went, because this started before Drink Champs, how do you think going and taking these travels and being in these totally different environments that you're not used to helped you as you guys started launching the podcast and interviewing people that you knew so much about? Did it give you a different perspective of how to talk to people? Or
in general, going to these countries has like inspired me. It reinvigorates my passion for hip hop every time we go, because it reminds me of when we were starting to do stuff like, you know, like, you know, we were lucky to be a part of hip hop in Miami at its infant stages, you know, and you know, you could never recreate those eras. You know, and like those eras are special when, you know, it was hard to get in the studio, hard to find the music, hard to, you know, there was no clubs playing it. You were going to like little house parties or little warehouse parties. Like just, you know, how hard was it for you to record because you didn't have money? Like you go into these countries and you're seeing these artists and it's hip hop in its infant stages in these countries, but they're so passionate about it and they have all this. And, you know, we might be jaded by it here because it's this big industry. But then I go there and I'm like, oh, this is, you know, it's refreshing again.
That's what it used to be like.
Yeah, and I come back refreshed and it makes me love it again. So then that reflects when I do a Drink Champs and I'm talking to these OGs that I'm like, oh, wow, man, like it reminds me. And I just came back and I'm just reminded from how it felt. And now I'm talking to this guy and I'm trying to get that feeling back.
So what was it that you think with Noriega being an artist, yourself being an artist, and then talking to artists, how do you think that gives a different dynamic to the type of questions and answers that you get?
Well, the artists that are gonna sit with us, they're not gonna feel it at a regular like press run or media interview. It's more like talking shop with friends, and then you add the liquor to it, and it's just gonna open people up even more. They don't feel like it's I got you questions or we're trying to create clickbait, even though it seems like that sometimes, but that's never our intention, is to create clickbait on anything.
Right.
It's just really like, yo, let's just talk like if the cameras weren't on, and you know. Of course, the liquor, someone might walk away from it saying, damn, they got me because I drank too much. But, you know, we're all grown-ass men or grown-ass women.
Right.
Like, it's up to you. And there's a lot of people that don't drink on Drink Champs, and they're still giving us these amazing stories. And I feel that their guard is down because they're amongst their peers.
Right. And that's one of the things that both you and Nori, I think, do a good job of is making the guests comfortable. Because it's funny, like here on Unique Access, sometimes in the comments, they'll be like, oh, he was asking him a crazy question or whatever. And I'm like, no. The person I was interviewing brought it up. I didn't even ask him. I asked him a follow-up question.
Right.
But I didn't. And it's because, as with you, as with Nori, and as with myself, like we love the music and we love the culture and what it's about and why. That's why we're here in the first place.
Yep.
So now, as you continue with, explain to people what Crazy Hood is and all the different tentacles that you have for those that don't know.
So Crazy Hood was born my senior year of high school, 1993, with a group of friends that I still roll with today. And it was just a bunch of kids that were just passionate about hip hop. But really, we didn't know what we were going to do. You know, because we didn't have financing, we didn't really have any background. You know, we had some artists or some potential artists. I had friends that I had to convince, like, come on, you can rap, like let's do this. You know, and one of them's here right now, Big Drain, and it was just like we just wanted to do something and kind of like support and help develop the local scene. That was our goal originally, and it just started as doing parties, then to me DJing and doing mixtapes, which became a big thing for us. I had a store called Crazy Goods with my partner Eddie Giggs. We've had a marketing company. We've worked, you know, all the labels, did all the street team stuff, management. You know, we had a clothing line, on and on and on. And now we have the Crazy Hood Film Academy. We still have the CHP marketing and promotions, and I do consulting for companies. And you know, we do the podcasts, and I'm producing other podcasts as well. We got Fatherhoods, you know, and a bunch of other stuff. And crazyhood.com is just an online source where we just kind of funnel anything we're into or we want to support. We always put it there. Like I look at crazyhood.com kind of like the evolution of my mixtapes. So, you know, my mixtapes I put whatever I wanted to support and whatever I believed in, whether it was just a relationship or just stuff that I just liked. And I do the same thing with crazyhood.com. Like whatever you know I'm into, I want to support, or people I have a relationship with, I try to support them through the site.
So EFN also, it's congratulations time. You guys recently signed what I believe is a remarkable and probably never been done before deal.
That we know of.
That we know of. You know, you got the title aspect, the mass appeal aspect, and the revolt aspect. So break down what's going on with Drink Champs and how this came to be.
Right. So we were able to do this multi-platform deal because we have a deal with Tidal that's subscription-based.
Okay.
And it's audio and video with them, and they get an exclusive period with it. And because they're subscription-based, it allowed us to, that when we go public after their exclusivity period, then we can sell ads on the audio podcast, which is a deal with Mass Appeal.
Okay. Mass
Appeal Endeavor. And then we already had Revolt as our linear TV partner. So they're still in play, and they agreed to this partnership. You know, they had to agree because we were already partners with them as well. And so they handle the linear side and the YouTube releases on the Revolt YouTube page. And so you have Tidal, Mass Appeal, Revolt, which in a sense we like to say it's Jay-Z, Nas, and Puffy.
That's some heavy hitters right there.
Yeah.
And now that you have all these different ways to present the show, how have you seen the way that people are looking at you differently?
Well, it's kind of still fairly new.
Okay.
And so it seems like it hasn't really
Kicked in yet?
kicked in or gotten to the audience, because the audience, they seem to get confused by the schedule changes and seeing the different rollouts where there'd be a title, and then you get people like, man, I don't got title, like, and I thought it's on Revolt. So we're still trying to get the messaging out. We're barely like maybe 5 episodes into the deal,
right.
But definitely just the initial announcement. The feedback is just like, yeah, people, it's never been seen before in terms of podcasting, in terms of like those 3 entities kind of being tied together, and it's all due to Drink Champs. And yeah,
congratulations.
Thank you, man. So yeah, it's pretty cool, man. We're really happy about it, and for the culture.
Well, as Nori says, Queens runs the world, right?
With Miami by his side.
Including a little shout out to Miami at the same time. Okay, so one of the things that I admire about what you do is that there's so many different things that you do, and that it doesn't seem like you really put limits or worry about, is this going to be as big as this or whatever. So what gave you that mentality to where you were willing to explore different things?
Survival.
Okay.
If I was going to make a living in this, I quickly learned that it wasn't going to be just one way.
Right.
You have to wear many hats and explore all different avenues, but I'm a big believer in you should try to keep you can go in any direction, but keep it relevant to what your original mission statement is, or whatever you're really about. I've seen artists, for example, start one, they're like an underground lyricist, and then because some other style is popping, then they completely do that because they think that's going to work. That's not what I mean by,
adapting.
Yeah, I just feel like you should be able to go in different directions, but kind of at the end of the day, if someone were to step back, they could see that it's all relevant to your original, mission statement and what you're about, and just everything. It just makes sense at the end of the day.
Well, there it is, y'all, with DJ EFN. Thank you for coming through,
Thank
man.
you, brother. Appreciate it.
With Soren Baker here on Unique Access. Make sure you guys look up, support, as you already do, I'm sure, with Drink Champs. But DJ EFN has so much else he's got going on. Check out crazyhood.com and support the man. He's making it happen. Soren Baker, Unique Access.
Be sure to check out the History of Gangster Rap by Soren Baker. He's official.
History of Gangster Rap features exclusive interviews with Ice-T, Snoop Dogg, MC Ren, the D.O.C, and dozens of others. The History of Gangster Rap, a definitive look at how Los Angeles changed rap forever.
In Los Angeles, the streets definitely set the tone of the hip-hop music.
At 19, I got a $50,000 car.
My whole angle always was, I'll be street, but I will always tell you the horrors that go along with this life.
There will be penalties and casualties for just wearing the wrong color in somebody's neighborhood.
And once gangster rap made it from the streets to the TV, the genre exploded.
With Fab 5 on Young TV Back with NWA.
Yo MTV has just catapulted us from being local heroes to national gangbang rappers.
The History of Gangster Rap discusses it all from 1980 up till today.
It's always gonna be shit happening in the streets. You know what I mean? So it's always gonna be something to talk about.
The History of Gangster Rap in stores now.